Hey guys, I know that y'all are probably a little worried because you have your active and passive voice verb test tomorrow, and we haven't been there for 2 days, so I wanted to do this for you just to kind of as part of a review. So this is actually one of the handouts that's on my website on the grammar page, but I wanted to go over it with you just to kind of help you remember what we were looking for. Now, I did release the quiz that you took on when were we even there? Tuesday? I did release that for you so that you can go back in and retake it and see how the questions were worded. That's very, very similar to what your test will look like. You'll have 30 total questions, but you have to determine if the sentences are written in active voice or in passive voice, and then some of them you have to rewrite. But let's kind of start with this. Now remember, when you are looking for active and passive voice, you have to find the verbs first. So when you look at this sentences, the dishes were washed by Jane. We look for our verb, were washed. Now in this situation, were washed has two verbs. It's also in past tense because remember, we look at our helping verb to determine what our tense is when we have helping verbs. So we also look and see, are there any other clues in the sentence? Well, we have this word, by. Well, because we have by, that's also a clue that most likely our sentence is in passive voice. But just to check, we ask, all right, who did the washing? Did the dishes do the washing or did Jane do the washing? Well, because Jane was the person actually performing the action and it comes after the verb, that makes this sentence passive voice. To redo this sentence and to make it an active voice, you would just put Jane first. Jane washed the dishes, and rewrite it that way. Remember, when you shift from passive to active, you still have to keep it in the same tense. So because this is in past tense, you have to keep it in past tense. And to do that, all you would do is get rid of that helping verb and just say Jane washed the dishes. Okay, looking at number 2. After the game, we bought hamburgers for everyone. All right, we have a prepositional phrase here, we have one here, and remember, we always look out for prepositional phrases to make sure that they don't confuse us. Well, what is our action in this sentence? What's being done? Well, somebody bought, all right? Looking at this, how many verbs is there? Well, there's only one. Well, here's your clue. If there's only one verb, that's going to be active voice, because passive voice always has to have at least one more verb. If you only have one, that makes it active. But again, let's do the checking. Who did the buying? Who bought the hamburgers? Well, we did. Because you have we and it's functioning as a subject, that makes it active voice. Now, what happens if I ask you to change this one to passive? Well, all you have to do is look at your verb again. You look at your subject, we, verb bought what? Hamburgers, direct object. Well, here's the thing. Your direct object would become your subject. So hamburgers, past tense, were bought by us for everyone after the game. You can put those prepositional phrases in there in whichever order makes the most sense. Looking at number 3. During the intermission, our band played several numbers. All right, what's our verb in the sentence? Our verb is played. Is that past, present, or future? Well, it's past. How many verbs are there? There's only one, so most likely this is going to be active voice. All right, who did the playing? Well, our band did, because band is functioning as a subject. That makes this entire sentence active voice. But what if I ask you to switch this one around? Well, here's the thing. You would change it around and put several numbers were played by our band during the intermission. Remember, whatever's on this side has to switch places in order for it to be passive voice. You also, again, have to have one more verb in passive voice than you do in active voice. Look at number 4. Alice broke her pen. Very simple. What's your action? Broke. How many verbs do you have? You only have one. So let's double check. Who did the breaking? Alice. Alice is your subject. What did she break? Her pen. So therefore, this is active voice. If I ask you to change this to passive voice, you could say, her pen was broken by Alice, or the pen was broken by Alice, whichever makes the most sense. And I told you tomorrow for your test that I would look at your word choice, and I'm not going to make it wrong if you added a the instead of a her. Look at number 5. My computer was read by Miss Jones. All right, what's the action? What's the verb? Well, we have 2, was read. Typically, when you have 2 verbs, you have to look and see if you're looking for passive voice. All right, do you have the word by? Yep, there's another clue. So you have to ask yourself, who did the reading? Did the computer do the reading, or did Miss Jones do the reading? Well, obviously, Miss Jones. So because the person doing the action is located after the verb, that makes it passive voice. If I asked you to make this active voice, again, switch sides. Miss Jones read my computer. You just get rid of that helping verb. Remember, you keep it in the same tense, which was indicates past tense, but you leave it as read because that's the past tense when you're talking in active voice. Number 6, Jean broke her arm during a volleyball game. All right, what happened? What's your action? Broke. All right, that's one word. Most likely it's going to be active, but let's check. Who did the breaking? Jean. Jean did. So because she is functioning as the subject, it comes before the verb. What did Jean break? Her arm. There's your direct object. Therefore, this is already in active voice. To change it to passive, you could say, the arm or her arm was broken by Jean during a volleyball game. Guys, it's just placement of words. Let's do one more. Ruth washed and ironed her blouse. All right, what's the action? Washed and ironed. All right, you have one verb here, not a helping verb and a main verb. Even though you have compound verbs, meaning 2, that doesn't mean that you have 2 helping verbs. So technically, let's look at this as one verb. Who did the washing? Did Ruth do the washing, or did her blouse do the washing? Well, obviously Ruth did. And because the person doing the action is functioning as the subject, it comes right before the verb, that makes this active voice. If you wanted to change it to passive, you can say her blouse or the blouse was washed and ironed by Ruth, and it's just switching places. If you have any questions about this, feel free to email me, but don't forget, if you have finished all of the activities on IXL that I assigned, you can go to the 9th grade IXL and you can do, I think it's D9 and D10 as additional practice. That's going to be the best thing to look at in preparation for the test that you're going to have. And yes, we're still doing it tomorrow. But I hope you all had a great snow day holiday. And like I said, email me with any questions.